So up next, I would like to invite Chris Burkett from WAGMI Games, who's going to be talking about NFT, the three-letter bad word. So please, Chris, come to the stage.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so excited to share this with you. Does anyone want to take a guess what this is? You're going to be blown away by this when you find out what it is. It's amazing. It's incredible. Any guesses? This, my dear friends, is the wiring diagram of my freezer. Yes, it is amazing. The cold, amazing, unbelievable ice cubes that my freezer makes is because of this right here. It's awesome. Nothing. Not excited by that. Okay, well, let's try something else. Who wants to try to guess what this is? Anybody? We have a hand. Go ahead. This is the motherboard of a PlayStation 4. The reason your PlayStation 4 is as cool and as exciting and thrilling as it is because this piece of hardware right here. Give a round of applause for the motherboard of a PlayStation 4. Thank you, very good. I think we've proved our point, right? Why is NFT the three-letter bad word? I'm going to tell you the secret right now. Because nobody cares. Nobody cares. I know it's going to shock you to hear the co-founder of a transmedia Web3 gaming franchise that literally is named after a crypto acronym, WAGMI, right? Tell you something like that, or worse yet, what I'm going to tell you now, we're not all going to make it. We're not. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm often on different panels when the topic of Web3 gaming comes up, and it usually has the same theme, just worded differently, all about how to bring mass adoption into Web3 gaming. And if you haven't had the opportunity to hear from someone about what they're doing for the Web3 space, what their Web3 game is all about, I want to introduce you to somebody. This is 100x DeFi Degen. I don't know if you've seen him before. I just doxed him, unfortunately, so now you know who he is. But that 100x DeFi Degen, now that's his name on Twitter and Telegram. I'm not sure if it's his real name, but he's looking for $100 million worth of VC funds. So if there's any VC funds out there, I just doxed him for you, so now you can trust him, since you know who he is. Now, 100x DeFi Degen just built a game called Candy Flush, which I'm sure he won't be sued over the name, but even though he does call it the Candy Crush of crypto. But here's 100x DeFi Degen, and I'm gonna go through this fast, but here's 100x DeFi Degen describing to you as a gamer how cool this game is. Ready? And we'll see if you've heard something like this before. Candy Crush 1.0, you know, the one you're used to playing in the Web 2 world. It's a popular puzzle game where players match colorful candies to score points and progress through levels. Has nothing to do with blockchain or crypto, which is why I don't really care for it. But Candy Crush 2.0, I want you to just close your eyes and just imagine a world of Candy Crush where possibilities are truly endless. In this game, players need to use their crypto wallets to perform transactions for buying altcoins, digital currency, or stable coins that can be used to buy gas, for minting, or to participate in an ICO, which in our game, of course, is an initial candy offering, right? A little play on words there. But the game features NFTs, non-fungible tokens, for those of you not in the know, and each level gets unlocked by purchasing a unique collectible with a private key. We're going to have proof of work or proof of stake, which is going to be used to determine how many points are earned per level. We'll, of course, have smart contracts and decentralized autonomous organizations, which are going to manage the game. And we're actually allowing our whale players, I guess they're not really players, they don't actually play the game, but they've given us money. So we're going to let the whales be allowed to create and implement tokenomics strategies for the game. We think it's only fair. I mean, they've given us money. So, you know, we're gonna do that. They bought our Genesis NFTs, so, you know, it was one of the utilities. We're gonna just kind of let them control it. We're gonna do more Genesis drops, which I guess doesn't really make a whole lot of sense since Genesis means the beginning. We've already done that. We've already sold that to them, but we're gonna still do it. We're going to offer exclusive NFTs while on-chain and off-chain transactions would be facilitated through layer 2 solutions and public ledgers. Zero knowledge proofs could be used to ensure that all transactions are secure and immutable. Now that I'm thinking about it, the game could actually take place in a metaverse, because why not, right? That'd be cool. Then we could sell land, right? And then the players will use seed phrases and public keys to access their wallets. To participate in events, players would need to use proof of attendance protocols and whitelist themselves to gain access. But anyway, long story short, it's really just going to be a fun way to learn about the latest developments in blockchain technology while enjoying a classic puzzle game that we've all grown to love. That sound familiar? That's usually what I hear when someone tells me about their Web3 game. The only acronym a Web3 gaming developer should care about is KYC. And I don't mean sending in your documents to somebody. I mean know your customer, right? If I'm a game developer, who's my customer? Gamers, right? The only acronym a gamer cares about is what? F-U-N. They only care about having fun. They only care about a fun game. Does a gamer care what the motherboard looks like in their PlayStation 4? No. Do I care if I want cold ice cubes? Do I care what the wiring diagram of my freezer looks like? No. Right? I just want cold ice cubes. But why do we as gaming developers in the Web3 space feel like everyone wants to know what's under the hood? If you want to talk about Candy Crush for a minute, if Candy Crush let me sell to other users the extra power-ups or extra lives that I have on days that I can't play, I would love that. Right? Are there days I can't play Candy Crush? Absolutely. Right? But I'll tell you something, if someone had told me about a game called Candy Crush where I could sell my in-game assets or to other people and didn't just appeal to me as a casual gamer, it would have gone right over my head. I wouldn't have cared, wouldn't have wanted to play. But guess what? I've been playing Candy Crush for years, and now that's something I would love to see them implement. You know how easy it would be for Candy Crush, and I'm not saying Candy Crush needs to do this. They seem to have a model that works pretty well. They seem to be doing okay. But how easy would it be for them to take a Web3 component and put it into Candy Crush? Somehow I keep getting put into teams on Candy Crush. No idea who these people are, but I randomly get put into these teams, and there's days where I get a message from Candy Crush saying that someone on my team needs a life. And it'll say, Chris, King4796 needs an extra life. He ran out of lives, he's trying to beat a level, right? And he needs an extra life. Would you like to give him one? Well, if I'm not playing that day, do I care? No, I'll take it. You can take the extra lives, right? But if you want to get me really excited, instead of asking me if I'd like to give them my extra lives that I'm not using, why not ask it this way? Chris, King4796 needs an extra life. Would you like to give him one, or would you like to sell him one? Now, would you be saying that to someone who just got into Candy Crush? No, you would not. Right? Would you even be saying it if you were Candy Crush? Probably not, right? Again, they have a model that works. But you think of just that tiny little move, and all of a sudden, boom, secondary marketplace, Web3, I can now sell my digital assets, my power-ups or cookies or stripes or whatever the heck I want to sell to other Candy Crush players. Candy Crush gets part of the revenue, right? Which is probably from some consumer who wouldn't have bought it on the retail side. They never have, but they would do it on the secondary, right? Those players that need those things didn't have to pay those retail prices. So now everyone's getting what they want. And you just proved to me as a gamer that there is power behind owning your in-game assets. There's power in NFTs, the power of being able to own and sell my in-game assets. Did you say the word NFT? Did you say the word blockchain? Did you say the word seed phrase or DeFi? You didn't have to, right? But you gave me the opportunity to be involved in those things without realizing I was involved in those things at all. Here's the reality. There's maybe 1 or 2 million Web3 gamers. Would you agree? Who's building in the Web3 space here? There's a number of you. Okay. More than likely, and this is probably a high estimate, there's maybe 1 or 2 million Web3 gamers. And the majority of those Web3 gamers are who? They're actually people who are playing those games because they want to earn a few dollars per day grinding, on a play-to-earn mechanism that probably isn't sustainable in the first place, right? And we've seen examples of that. Folks, there are 3+ billion gamers in the world. And there's this difficult middle ground for all of us in this space where in the Web3 space, we tend to just talk so much about the tech. And we use these fancy buzzwords like blockchain and NFT and all of these things, which is perfect if you're talking about the token or the utility for a token or for NFTs. But who are you talking to when you're talking about those things? You're talking to the speculative investors, right? Which there's a market for, but they're not. They're your gamers. They're not actually your customer when you're talking about a game. And in regards to bringing in billions of gamers, you either have to be willing to change the narrative, and that might mean actually changing the game you were originally making. You might have had set in stone that you were going to be going down one certain path, and all of a sudden now have to change your game. You have to build the bridge, give Web 2 gamers what they want. When did we start calling them Web 2 gamers? I don't even know. It was when we came up with Web 3, we started calling them Web 2 gamers. But give Web 2 gamers what they want, which is a fun, exciting, addicting game, right? And walk with them across the bridge when they're ready, rather than just pulling them to you. Making it to where you don't have to talk about NFTs and blockchain, et cetera, but just giving them a crazy addictive game. And I get it. What that means is that you're competing with other Web 2 games, other major gaming studios, other free-to-play games, and it's hard and it's expensive. But you have to create the bridge for those gamers to be able to cross. You can't just pull them to you. And that means there's going to be a lot of games who aren't going to make it. There's going to be a lot of games whose sole audience is always going to be that 1 or 2 million Web3 gamers, right? No matter how much those companies talk about wanting to bring in mass adoption, that's never going to be their audience. But there will be some standout games that do it. We hope to be one, that figure out that formula to build the bridge, to have the Web3 gaming crowd, the one that already understands the value of owning your in-game assets. They're already in the space, right? But still, that becomes maybe 1 to 3% of your players. The rest are Web 2, right? And remember what we talked about with Candy Crush, or really any game, how one tiny, simple little move could actually bring all of their users to the Web 3 world, so that they're not having to just compete on the Web 2 side, not by forcing them, but by giving them a choice. People want the choice, right? Giving them the opportunity to find out how they can use these in-game assets that they own differently than they ever have before. I was at ETH Denver. Was anybody at ETH Denver? A few of you? I was at ETH Denver a couple months back in March, and I listened to a talk by Miko Matsumura. He's a managing partner of a $100 million VC fund, GCC. And he said something so profound. And if you're building in the Web3 space, he gave the formula. He gave the secret. And here's what he said. He said, who is the best person to sell NFTs to a normal person? Who's going to do it? Who can sell an NFT to a normal person? I'll tell you who's going to do it. It's going to be, he said, it's going to be free-to-play game studios. Free-to-play. Because the free-to-play game studios can sell you something that you didn't even know existed, that you didn't even know you wanted, that has no real existence in the world, and you'll buy it. You're going to buy skins, you're going to buy swords, you're going to buy shields, you're going to buy power-ups and spell cards. You're going to buy all this stuff. So the players aren't going to buy NFTs. They're going to buy swords and skins and shields, right? And NFT is the technology. We're not selling NFTs. We're selling skins and swords and shields, right? And he said, the reason I'm so confident that people are going to do this, that people are going to buy these things, is because look around. People are already doing it. Why are we all here? The microtransaction, in-game transactions, for buying in-game items, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. People are already doing it. They don't know the tech behind it in the Web 2 side. They don't care about the tech behind it on the Web 2 side. They just know what they can do with it, right? They just know they can buy it. I want to mention one more thing that I think is the most important thing to remember if you're a Web3 game developer, and that's this. Who can tell me what this is? Just shout it out. What mountain is this? Everest. Why in the world am I showing a picture of Mount Everest? Well, between 1921 and 2006, there were 212 deaths on Mount Everest. 73% of those deaths, what do you think? Were people going up? They were climbing Mount Everest? They were coming back down? What do you think? 73% of the deaths were people coming back down Mount Everest. Now, why in the world am I talking about that? They died because they were exhausted. Their adrenaline and their maybe years of training was to get up Mount Everest, right? It was to climb it. And once they reached the top, they were exhausted, They were exhausted. You never hear someone say, oh, I'm training to descend down Mount Everest. I'm training to climb Mount Everest, right? Well, what in the world does this have to do with Web3 games? If you're a developer building a Web3 game, don't fall into this trap. 99% of Web3 games set their mission, their goal, their training, their end game. It had nothing to do with onboarding and retaining customers, which are your gamers, right? It had everything to do with launching their game. That's all. And the problem with that is what have we seen in the Web3 space? The majority of those games have died. They died fast, right? And they reached launch, they were done, they hadn't planned what to do after. They made onboarding so difficult. They put up expensive onboarding procedures. They put up buy barriers where you had to buy to get into the game, expensive entries. And they didn't just focus on the 3 letters that gamers care about, F-U-N. Right? And as much as I hate to say it, here's why developers get trapped in this cycle over and over and over. Because before building their game, who is their customer? 99.9% of their customer, or percent of the time, it's the speculative investor, right? Who have basically paid for you to be able to build your game in the first place. So, good reason, you feel indebted. You feel like you have to give back to that person. You feel like that you're in debt to them, rightly so. But what they care about the most is what? Is the launch of the game, right? They're not necessarily gamers. They're the speculative investor. And so often in the Web3 space, we see companies making decisions based on that. They don't really know who their real customer is. And those people like hearing about the Web3 aspects, the return on their investment. And when the game launches and that doesn't happen, right? You can tell by the chart. How many charts look like Mount Everest? You have the peak, which is usually the launch of the game, and it goes down. The token gradually dies, the audience disappears, the company pivots, and everyone moves on. Time and time again, we keep seeing it. And I'll tell you something, even at WAGMI Games, the company I'm a co-founder of originally thought that was the right plan. Originally, we were building not a mobile game, not a free-to-play game, not a fiat to in-game purchases game. We were building a browser game where everyone would have to pay something to get into the game. And we realized people have done this over and over and over, and it has not worked. What are we doing? So we did something that is usually could be death in the Web3 space for a lot of projects. We said a very bad word. Any guesses what that word is? Delay. We delayed. And did that ruffle feathers? Absolutely. Absolutely. Did that cause some people to sell our token and move on to something that they were speculating they might make money faster on? Absolutely. But we realized all of this talk about bringing in mass adoption, getting gamers to adopt Web3, bringing all this money into the Web3 space, it's the wrong focus. Right now, the Web3 crypto space is really made up of the same money just swapping hands back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, right? It's going from meme coins to utility tokens, meme coins to utility tokens, meme coins to utility tokens. It just kind of keeps swapping back and forth. And we realized if we focus on making it to where people can use fiat to buy their in-game assets, aka NFTs, without knowing that they're NFTs. We give them a custodial wallet in the background. It happens instantly. They get their custodial wallet without even realizing there's a custodial wallet happening in the background. And we just work on giving them what they want, a fun, addictive game and free to get into rather than putting up those hurdles. Now we can get maybe a little bit of money from a lot of the gamers out there, rather than charging a lot up front and having maybe a few Web3 gamers, but nobody from the Web 2 side, right? That'll never bring mass adoption if we go about that. But if we were to do that, if we were to go the free-to-play route, if we were to go to the fiat to NFT, if we were to go to that route and appeal to just the fun game and go back to that starting point, we can now bring that money back into the ecosystem. We can do buybacks on the chart, right? There's legalities in regards to burning mechanisms and stuff like that. Who cares about that? We can buy back on the chart all we want. Using the revenue coming in from the game, we can use those tokens for tournaments and for rewards and whatever else, which obviously appeases the Web3 person, right? The speculative investor, they like to see that. Price go up, that's all, that's what they're wanting to see. But we're bringing in more and more money from the Web 2 world and introducing the crowd gradually rather than just yanking them over to us. We're helping to build that bridge, still helping the Web 3 crowd, those speculative investors be happy because they're able to get what they're into. The token itself is going to have some amazing utilities. We'll have skill-based wagering and in the game as well, which plays into the competitive gambling side of the Web 3 sphere. So a little bit for everybody. But it makes it to where the focus of our franchise is on making the game fun, making it to where people want to play, want to stay, want to come back, just making it fun. Same end result, really stronger end result, right, from a monetary side, for the ecosystem, but making it sustainable. Does it mean that it might take a little more time to feel ready to reach the top of Mount Everest? Sure. But it'll make it to where we don't die coming back down, right? Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it. I'm Chris Burkett from WAGMI Games.
First off, I just want to say I really loved your talk, and I pretty much agree with everything you said, especially as somebody who's been building for the last couple of years in the space as well. I have one quick question. It's a little snarky, I apologize. I agree with your complete strategy of pivoting, embracing Web 2, Fiat, but how come you haven't changed the name of the game? You're still embracing a Web 3 acronym with WAGMI in the name of the game title, and I feel like you're still kind of clinging on there, and it seems like the last holdout that you guys are.
Yeah, and that question comes up. Who knows if that'll ever change in the future? The reality is you got to know your customer, right? So right now, the majority of our audience, the game's coming out in July. It's going to be soft launch in July on major app stores. But at the moment, right, our audience is the Web3 crowd. It's most of the speculative investor side. It's the Web3 gamers. It's that audience. So at least at the moment, having that name WAGMI, it's very marketable. You still have the speculative side, right? And that acronym is so marketable within the space, and you get celebs and you get Elon Musk and you get those kinds of people who tweet that word out all the time, and it really plays into that narrative. So good question. Future games we have will have some different titles, for sure. Very good. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Chris.